Alright, so as you've probably come to expect, I've got my new XMR pulled apart already because I was doing an inspection this morning, drove it around some, and I had a clicking noise from the front end, and I realized that the front CV cup was sliding out of the diff a little bit. Now luckily this diff is a sealed thing. The axle doesn't actually go into anything that could leak oil, so I don't think any contamination made it in there. But the reason the axle was sliding out is because there's no snap ring on it. What's up, guys? I finally got an XMR Sport. I've been wanting one of these machines for a while. Some of my friends have them. I've always been very impressed with them. They're just kind of overbuilt. They've got the X3 radiator, the X3 front differential, but they don't have X3 power. They've only got 100 horsepower instead of the 200 plus. So they're generally pretty reliable machines. I like them. I like the packaging. I like the wheelbase, good suspension travel, big shocks. And I found a steal on this one, 14 grand, couldn't pass it up. So I was looking at a bunch of other machines too. I'll throw that chart up on the screen now. I'm not going to talk through it too much here. If you want that discussion, get on the Patreon page. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with my purchase here. And we're definitely going to put it through the paces. You guys want to do something different. I've been doing a lot of Honda stuff for a while. I had 2 Talons and a Pioneer. I had a Wolverine 850 in there, and I also had a YXZ in there. But this is my first belt drive side-by-side since my Wolverine and my Polaris and Razor 900 Trail that I had on portals and stuff. So we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to miss shifting gears and having the big bed, but this is going to be a whole lot more comfortable than my Pioneer and a lot faster and a lot lower gears, and it'll clear bigger tires. All right, guys, you know I've been shopping, made a purchase, came across this 2022 XMR Sport for 14 grand and could not pass it up. Really low miles and hours, very well maintained. It was parked outside for a little while, so it's got some corrosion on the aluminum. It's not like the cleanest thing in the world, but it's pretty new. It's got low miles an hour, so I think I'll have no issues with it. I was between this and the Commander XMR. I was kind of undecided, right? This is great because it's 200 pounds lighter than the Commander, and it's got the big shocks, but the Commander's got the big bed, so, you know, this is definitely a sportier option with the shocks and the bed. It's got a little more suspension travel. That's full down travel, by the way, which is pretty good. The axle angles are not insane, but I like that it's traditional double A-arm suspension. I think the Talon suspension is a little wonky. I was close to getting another Talon. There's some good deals on Talons right now. I love the Talons, but you guys said you're tired of seeing Talon content. Get something different, so I did. We'll see if I regret it or not. But for 14 grand, I couldn't go wrong. I did find some Talons in that price range, but the Talons, you know, they've been having sub-trans issues, drive shaft issues. I never had those with mine. I think a lot of the sub-trans issues are kind of user error, or having the cable out of adjustment. But yeah, so I'm excited to have something comfortable again. I'm gonna miss having 3 seats in the Pioneer. I'm gonna miss the big bed, obviously. But this thing's cool. It's got a lot of storage. Huge box there. Got the factory toolkit in there. Unlike the Commander, this doesn't have turf mode, so that's a little simpler too. You just got a regular spool, no differential in the rear. And like I said, I checked all the fluids and everything was super clean. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a full service, air filter, oils, filters, just all that stuff you gotta do. I'm gonna raise the engine intake snorkel up to the top of the roll cage, and then eventually I'll raise the belt up. But the belt's a little trickier because this actually has 2 pipes going into it. And this right here is your belt exhaust, which comes up and back down. So yeah, got a little bit of work to do. Got to raise all the vent lines up, but hopefully we'll have it out this weekend. There's no snap ring on it. It does have the nice O-ring to keep mud out of the splines, like my Gen 3. A lot of the Gen 3 stuff came from this generation side-by-side, by the way. But there's no snap ring on it. And I'm fairly certain this guy only took it to Seminole Power Sports for service and warranty and maintenance type stuff. So either Seminole Power Sports did that or Can-Am did that, and I'm the first person to catch it. The way the axle worked, it was still sitting in there enough to pull. The splines had never slipped, but I noticed the gap was about this much too big, and of course I was right. So got to find a snap ring. I already ordered some spare axles for it, just some cheapos to throw in the truck for the meantime, because I know these things do break axles. They put down a lot of torque, and once you put 33s, 35s on them, you can pop axles. I've seen it happen at, there's a video of it from Rancho. But yeah, that's the only issue I found so far. So trying to fix that kind of stuff. Pretty annoying, but because that axle was slid out, it let a lot of water and mud get in there. So these spines are a little rusty, so they need to get clean and greased up. And this axle is probably going to be good to go for a while. But that CV boot right there is leaking a little bit of grease, so I wanted to get a spare. All right, that is mended. It turns out it uses about the same snap ring as a Pioneer 500, and I have plenty of those axles laying around, so I stole a snap ring off of that. Got the axle fully installed, nice and greased. I did have to take a drummer tool and kind of polish up the groove to make it float freely, because the P500 axle snap ring is a little thicker. But that axle's in there, it's not going anywhere. It's probably gonna be hard to get out because the P500 snap ring is a little bigger. But yeah, that wasn't too bad of a job. I do like how the tabs here are really reinforced. They're nice and linear the way they're all mounted. Pretty awesome frame design. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of the big fasteners, M12 fasteners, big nuts on them to keep good clamping force. Like I'm always saying, it has double bonded bushings on this, like my Gen 3 Outlander, like all my Hondas. So these bushings are going to be maintenance free for a long time, which is great. The shock is huge. It mounts way up in there. There's a lot of trussing on the shock mounts. It's not going to have the issues my Wolverine had, bending shock towers and stuff like that. So I like a lot of what I see. Some things I don't like. These Can-Am brakes are a huge pain in the ass. These bolts are extremely hard to get out. I hate the way they retain the pads. You can tell from the pad wear that this caliper is already starting to stick a little bit. So I might have to replace the calipers. I ordered brake pads for it. I'll take them apart and grease the pins when I do that. I like that the steering is double shear. I like that there's a boot on it. Everything is sealed pretty well from the water. Yeah, so far I like a lot of things about it. Like I said, it's got the O-ring on the axle to keep the water out of the splines, assuming the axle is seated properly and you have a snap ring on it. You can clean the radiator pretty good at this top spot. This one down here is kind of hard to get to. This area right here is impossible to get to, and you can see there is a little bit of crap in there. I'm gonna try to flush it from the back when I clean it now. But yeah, so far I like it. I think it's a pretty well overbuilt unit. The way the tabs are reinforced and stuff, you can throw 4-inch portals on this without any other mods and just roll. I mean, maybe some better ball joints, but that's about it. So yeah, pretty happy with my purchase so far. All right, so as usual, when you buy anything, especially a Can-Am, you have to check all the vent lines. So from the factory, your front differential vent was this clear line right here. It was hanging down in the wheel well about this high. It's supposed to be tucked up somewhere, it wasn't. So I put an extender on it, a little male-to-male splice, ran it into the tube right here, and it goes all the way up to about right there. Okay, that was easy. In the rear, you got more vent lines to mess with. This is your radiator overflow vent line. This hangs down pretty low. It'll let mud and water get sucked up into your coolant tank and eventually work your way in your coolant system. That needs to be snorkeled. Be careful, hot liquid can come out of this if you overheat it, so you want to put it somewhere where it's not going to blow on your passengers. I like to put it somewhere where it blows on me, that way I know when I'm overheating, even if I'm hammered. This contraption right here is Can-Am's usual fuel vent stupidity. So the way they have it set up is there's a check valve here that lets air come out through this little filter, and there's a check valve here that lets gas drip out through this. This was tucked down in the frame bar. This is great for safety and not burning your vehicle to the ground, but it's not great for mud. If either one of those check valves fail, you can get mud and water in here. Now I will say, every other Can-Am I bought has been worse than this. All of these vent lines were up here, right in the center, nice and high, almost as tall as a snorkel. So they did a pretty good job, but of course, we're gonna put everything up the roll cage and get it as high as possible that we don't have any worries. Pretty interesting looking cage. It's one of those, you know, it's got some forged pieces in it or cast pieces, but it's very structural. It's actually a pretty beefy looking cage. I kind of like it. We'll put this thing on the roof soon and we'll see how well that cage works. You can get to all the vent lines through here. You can come up here, you can get to some of the gas tank vents, and then you can get to the rest of them just kind of fishing around in here. If you're trying to find this transmission vent, it's pretty easy. It comes off the top of the tranny there and goes up. You can just kind of trace it up. But yeah, I think those are all the vent lines. Let me know if I'm missing something, guys. This is the first one of these I've done in a while. I've snorkeled a few of these for my friends, but not the XMRs, the regular Maverick Sports. For how beefy the cage is and how beefy the suspension is, I really think it should be heavier. So Can-Am might be lying about the weight. They say it's like 1,600 and change. Of course, we're gonna put it on the scales and figure out how much it actually weighs. Radiator was pretty caked with mud, so I cleaned it good, but I'm just gonna buy a new radiator. It's got a few bent fins, and it's got some corrosion. This thing was parked outside a lot, so put a new radiator in there, less worries. Eventually I might add a second radiator in the back just for emergency cooling. But I think I'll probably leave this factory one in the front. It is huge. It goes from there all the way up to there. So leave that one and then maybe add a small one in the rear. That'd be kind of cool, I think. This interior comes out pretty easy. The seat bottom pops out, the top of the seat slides off. This firewall here is probably a bear to get off. It's got some rivets in it, but you do have an access port down here to get to that front cylinder. So if you hydrolock it or something, I assume, pull this seat frame, pull that cap right there, you can probably get to that front spark plug pretty easy. The engine is mounted really close to the seats, by the way. I mean, the engine's right here. So compared to the Talon, the packaging is a little different. Instead of having the air box in between the bed and the seat, this is a lot smaller, and the air box is a more compact unit down below the bed. You want your airbox up high, but I'm not a big fan of the Talon airbox. If you have a leak, it leaks into the clean side. Same thing with the Pioneer 1000. So I think this is a pretty good setup for packaging. Probably not quite as nice to work on, as I'm kind of finding out now. But yeah, we'll get it done. Eventually I'll raise up the belt intake and exhaust, but that's a project for another day. This is just getting it ready for the weekend. And of course, take off these Terache tires, which are still brand new because this thing has no miles on it. Take off these Terache tires, and we're gonna throw my 33 Aztecs. The red wheels are gonna look terrible with the orange and the gold, but we gotta do it. Eventually we'll get some Terache black beadlocks and run some 32XXs on here. She's getting much closer to be ready to rip. For the coolant breather, I left it at this height, and I just put a filter on there to keep sand and mud out of it. That's pretty high already, and if water gets in the coolant, there's already half water in there. That filter will keep a lot of the crud out though. So that's the filter that was on the gas. I stole it and put it there. Deleted all this crap. So that vent line, it might raise up later, but I think I'm gonna leave it there. These other two vent lines, the clear one is of course your fuel tank loop into the tube, and then this is your sub transmission or transmission. I drilled this hole out a little bigger. There's already a hole there. I like putting them in the tube if possible. It keeps water from splashing in there, especially when you're washing with the water hose and things like that. Usually don't want your gas tank and your transmission in the same tube, but there wasn't really where else to put it, and this tube's pretty big, so any fumes that get in here will dissipate through the tube. Not that many fumes will make it into my into my transmission. And this sticks up in there about 1 inch from the bottom, so it's sitting like this high. So if gas gets in here, it's not going to drip down the line. That's the important thing. So yeah, that's done. Routed nicely through here. Make sure you route your vent lines where they're not all over your airbox, otherwise it's hard to take the airbox lid off. Ask me how I know. Made that mistake before. I tried to use the little factory snaps to hold the line in place where I could, but yeah, came out pretty good. I put a new battery in there. Well, better battery, it's slightly used. I have a lot of shit laying around. I drilled a bunch of holes in this box to help it drain better. Drilled like 10 holes in it. I need to do that box too. And I took off that little front windshield piece because I want as much airflow through the cabin as possible. It's hot in Florida. Now, one thing Marshall pointed out to me is that the seating position in this thing is lower than I'm used to. I think it's about the same as a Talon, but it's definitely lower than the Pioneer 1000. So that means your head's lower, which means if you make the snorkel real high, your head's gonna go under. But I am not opposed to holding my breath or wearing a snorkel or a scuba tank. So I think I'm gonna use this piece. It actually is pretty nice, the way it fits between the bed and everything. It's an oval shape. So I'm gonna find an adapter, probably like a 3-inch or something that'll stretch over that and go from oval to round to straight aluminum 3-inch up there and put an elbow on the top. Like I said, these are going to stay where they're at for now until I find a better solution, because it's going to be hard to raise up the U and everything else. I can definitely do it. I just got to order some parts. But yeah, it's about ready for this weekend. Just got to finish up this. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that this thing has amazing clearance, and unlike any other side by side I've ever seen, it actually has a dent in the bottom of it. That dent does a lot for breaking surface tension, or excuse me, breaking suction and helping the breakover angle. So yeah, this thing's actually got a fold in the bottom of it, and that's not from hitting a stump. That's how these things are shaped, and I actually think it makes a difference from experience with these machines. I've had it for less than 12 hours, actually almost exactly 12 hours, and it's ready to go for the weekend. So to raise the snorkel up for the engine intake, I just did a 4-inch to 3-inch Fernco rubber coupler. Obviously it's ultra blacked on the inside. I need to smoke test it still, but it'll be pretty good. Up to a piece of 3-inch aluminum boost tube, and then I used some adapters to make it fit. This is just a cheapo, thin elbow I had laying around, and I use this as kind of an adapter. It slides inside there. Plenty of flow. This is a real thin, it's aluminum, so their diameter is good. So yeah, now I can go deep without worrying about the engine getting sunk. Belt, different story, but the crankcase breather breathes in the engine pipe, so this is engine and crankcase if you think about it. The vent lines are up to here, and she's good to go. I ordered some brakes on Amazon. If they come in time, I'll go ahead and change out the brake pads, assuming I can get the old ones off with these stupid calipers. If not, I'll order a full set of calipers. But yeah, ready to go. Pretty good progress. Took me probably 3 or 4 hours to get all the vent lines, get that snorkel done. I cleaned it pretty good, looking a lot better. And yeah, ready to rock and roll. One big complaint I have about this thing, I've always had about the XMR Sport, Commander, etc., is this big growth in the center here. The only thing this does is give you a place to put your shifter. I would love the shifter to be up here or something, because this is just so goofy. It really gives you, it cuts in on your leg space down here. This rubs your knee bad, so maybe I'll get rid of it and I'll make something a little more, I don't know, reasonable. Leave the shifter up here, but open up this area some. I got to see how high the drive shaft comes up. But yeah, I hate that growth in the center. The interior in this thing is kind of dorky. A lot of leg room. It's a way bigger cab than like the Talon, but that shifter growth is just stupid. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this stuff, please like and subscribe. I will make more videos like this if I make money on YouTube. The way it's getting now, I'm probably be transferring most of this sort of content to Patreon. It just doesn't pay on YouTube, and it actually hurts my overall views because most people just want to see action.